This week we're also going to review comparing fractions. In order to understand where we're going with comparing fractions, we need to remember our comparison signs. Our first sign is this one, and that stands for greater than. This sign is less than, and the equal sign means equal to. So we have greater than, less than, or equal to. When we compare fractions, we have two options of what we need to do. We look in first if the denominators are the same. If the denominators are the same, we look at the numerator. The fraction with more pieces is bigger. So since we have 1/4 and 3/4, since the denominators here, 4 and 4, are the same, we look at the numerators. Here we have 1, and here we have 3. 3 is bigger than 1. So we know that 1/4 is less than 3/4. Remember we talked about in class how we have alligator mouths, and the alligator mouth always faces the bigger number. So we say 1/4 is less than 3/4 because 3/4 is bigger. Come over to this other example. We have 6/8 and 2/8. The denominators are the same. Since the denominators are the same, we look at the numerator. We have 6 and we have 2. 6 is bigger than 2. So we know that 6/8 is greater than 2/8. The alligator mouth faces the 6/8. Now, here is where it gets a little tricky. If the denominators are different and the numerators are the same. So if you see the numerators here are the same. If the numerators are the same, you're going to find the smaller denominator. The smaller the denominator, the bigger the piece of the whole. A smaller denominator means a bigger piece. A bigger denominator means a much smaller piece. So we have 3/4 and 3/8. Since the numerators are the same, we look at the denominator. The smaller denominator is bigger. 3/4 is greater than 3/8. Smaller denominator, the bigger the piece. Here we also have 4/8 and 4/6. The numerators are the same, so we look at the denominators. 8 and 6. Remember, the smaller the denominator, the bigger the piece. 6 is less than 8, so we know that 4/6 is bigger than 4/8, so we read that as 4/8 is less than 4/6. Go to the next one. See that the numerators are the same. Look at the denominators. We have 3 and we have 6. 3 is smaller than 6, so it means it's a bigger piece. It's going to have a bigger piece. So 2/3 is greater than 2/6. Looking at our last one, we have 1/3 and 1/2. We both have, the numerators have the 1s, and we look at the bottom, we have a 3 here and a 2 here. The bigger the denominator, the smaller the piece. The smaller denominator, the bigger the piece. So 1/2 is actually bigger than 1/3. And that's a little bit tricky when we're talking about fractions, because most students think that the bigger number on the bottom in the denominator will always be bigger, but it's not. You have to pay attention to whether your numerators or your denominators are the same. So we say 1/3 is less than 1/2. Take your time when you're comparing your fractions. Check and see if it's the denominators that are the same, because then you have to look for the bigger numerator. If your numerators are the same and your denominator is different, you need to look for the smaller denominator because it will be bigger. Take your time and check your work. Best of luck on comparing fractions.